Hi guys, and hello from the hilltop. I am the Plateau Perfectionist and I want to welcome you to my channel. So today's video is all about me attempting to watercolor. You heard me right. So as you've seen in my bullet journals, I do a lot of work with markers and things of that nature, but it has been over a decade since I have attempted to do watercolors. I did watercolor back in school, back in high school, junior high, middle school, as earliest as they could put a paintbrush into my hand. I enjoyed the medium. It's not my personal favorite. I personally prefer to work with acrylic. This is just my personal 2 cents. However, I had a theme in mind for October, and I wanted to at least try because I have seen a lot of people work with this medium in their bullet journals, and I know the journal that I have has the paper strength that it can do watercolor. It has 160 GSM paper, and I know it can work with watercolor. However, I've seen several people do different methods when applying watercolor to their bullet journal. I've seen people do pages and then scan them and then print them. I have also seen people just paint right onto their pages. Anyway, I am very out of practice because it has been over a decade since I have done watercolor. So I decided to give it a shot and just see what came of it. So for starters, the watercolors, I didn't want to spend $1 and some change on expensive watercolors, especially not to dip my toes in per se. I didn't want to just buy all the stuff. So I ended up just going to Family Dollar and going to the office supply section and grabbing a cheapo color palette of watercolors. And then these green tealy brushes that I have had forever. I use them for my acrylic work. I've used them for painting on fabric with fabric paint. I've used these things for years. They're old, but I love them. They're good, trusty guys. And so I decided to use them for my watercolors, and they did okay. I wanted to try using the biggest brush which I used for that blue swatch, and then some small, and then I gradually went down to my trusty small, teeny tiny brushes for later on work. But yeah, so some things that I had to kind of reteach myself about using this medium is, one, if you know you're going to use a specific color ahead of time, go ahead and put some water into you don't have to put a lot of it, but just put some water into the palette swatch, I'm going to call, to get the paint soft, because it needs to be soft and malleable in order to get good color onto the page. Second, tape your paper down. I tried using it just in the actual spiral without tearing it out, and you saw how badly it was beveling. So I went ahead and ripped the page out, taped it down with some extra washi tape to keep it as flat as possible so I could work with the medium. A third thing was, I remembered this before I got into it, was to start with light colors first. So for example, here I decided to go ahead and do some flower work. I didn't like that my dragon was looking closer to a donkey than an actual dragon. And so I ended up giving it a rest to let the color dry. And I decided to do some flowers. They ended up being red daisies because my red was already soft from trying to do the dragon. And I just kind of went with it. I didn't have anything, as you can see, I didn't have anything drawn out. This is all completely freehand off the top of my head. I also apologize for the lighting because my desk is still in the sewing room, so it's not in my bedroom where I can have my lights properly set up and whatevers. So yeah, start with your light colors first. And as you can see, my watercolor was still too dry. That's where all that feathering is coming from. I didn't have enough water in it. But again, I haven't worked with this medium in over 10 years. I am having to reteach myself a lot of things. If you have any tips and tricks on how to work with watercolor that would help me, I would really appreciate it. Please put them in the comments below. And I will also be trying to watch some, like Shada Campbell. I know she does a lot of watercolor work, and just kind of reteach myself the medium. Because watercolor is a very different beast from acrylic. Shift myself here. I'm sitting here recording this in my closet again because it's the quietest place in the house. I also tried to work with dimension. It's been so long since I've taken the opportunity and painted anything. And this was all off the seat of my pants. So something else that I need to address when it comes to watercolors. You need to let the watercolor dry between layers. I was trying to, so that's a big thing between acrylic and watercolor. If you mess up in acrylic, you can go over it and erase your mistake. Watercolor is not nearly as forgiving in that respect. So, and you have to let your layers dry. If you're going to go for a more detailed look, you need to let your layers dry. So here you can see I'm trying to add a little bit of purple to give the petals some more dimension. And since it's not dry, it's smearing real bad. And some people like that look. I personally didn't think it turned out half bad. However, since I'm painting this with an acrylic mentality instead of a watercolor mentality, I was getting really frustrated with how the color was spreading, and it was not looking as detailed as I wanted it to. So I tried to do more details in dry spots, which were not as dry as I thought they were, and I ended up having to give this poor petal a rest. Or not this petal, this flower a rest, and work on the other one just to give this one some more time to dry. And the more you put on it, the longer it takes to dry. So something I will say, regardless of whether you are working in an acrylic medium or a watercolor medium, is, in case you haven't noticed, I haven't even touched the black or white yet. Everything that I have been doing is entirely with colors. I do that for a reason. When I was in college, I had a professor give us a challenge of having to do a piece of art in color, but we were not allowed to use black or white. Everything that we did in our art had to be done with color. Now you could use a very dark color, or you could use a very light color, but you could not use just straight black or straight white. You had to use color. And the reason behind the project was, when you actually look at a painting, or you look at a drawing, or even a photo, if you actually were to go into the details of the photo, they're not just color with black and white. They're color with a mix of another color in order to get the color that you're looking at. Very few colors are actual pure yellow, pure red, pure green. It's a mix of one color and a second color, and then maybe an added tidbit of light and dark to give us distinct medium. I'm sorry, I'm giving the wrong words. But that was the whole purpose behind the project, was to help teach us as students not to just rely on yellow mixed with black or white in order to get the color that we needed. Sometimes you have to add, a little bit of purple instead of black to give it more dimension. So while I was letting these daisies dry, I went ahead and tried to go back to my dragon to make it look less like a donkey or a dog or whatever you want to call it, and just work with what I had. Something else that I also did was I ended up in that blue swatch above, I ended up trying to do a monochromatic color picture. I think I was trying to go for like a beachy sunset or something. In the end, it looks terrible, and I actually edited out the whole bit on this video because the video was getting really long. I didn't realize how long I was taking on this painting. Those actually aren't the eyeballs, those are the eyebrows. It ended up looking like some sort of drag queen monstrosity, and I was BSing, trying to give those daisies some time to dry so I could go back with some additional colors and give them some more dimensions. I really liked how the center bits of the daisy looked with the yellow and the orange, so I didn't want to go in and mess with those. I wanted to give more detail to the petals, because if you ever actually look at a daisy per se, the petals have a lot of great ridge lines in them, and you can do some really good detail with watercolor if you let it dry and then add it in layers. Oh my goodness. So here, this is actually, I'm going back with some blue. I'm going back in blue to give them some more dimensions. That one daisy was still really, really wet. However, the other one was relatively dry. So that's where I'm going in with some extra detail, just to give them some more oomph. And I think it actually came out really well. The colors merged really good. I mean, they looked relatively cohesive, and you can actually start to see the detail of the daisy, even in the terrible lighting that is my camera work. I'm sorry. So on a different subject, as you can see, this is me not having practiced with watercolor in over 10 years. As it stands, I actually haven't touched acrylic in probably 3 to 4 years. And if you would actually like to see me work with acrylic, again, please leave me a comment in the comment below that you're actually interested in seeing me poorly attempt to paint something. Yeah, see this is me actually adding black. This is the first time I actually touched the black, and you see how badly it's running into the eye. I personally think it kind of gave it a little bit of dimension on that one eye, but the other one was still too wet and had to leave it alone. And, trying to go for some outlines. You know, detail work is really all about the outlines. I actually don't like to outline per se. I mean, if it's something cartoony or doodly, it's not that big of a deal. Like this dragon was supposed to be kind of like a cartoony looking dragon, so an outline is not a big deal. But the daisies, on the other hand, the daisies I was trying to go for more of a realistic look, and realistic painting doesn't have outlines. How you get an outline is where the shadows are. So I'm adding extra shadows here on these petals to make the center of the daisy look more distinct, to really give it some dimension without adding just a blatant outline. Another thing another reason I was practicing with the watercolors is because the theme that I'm going to be doing does have some blatant drawing in it. Yeah, see, I cut out the entire sunset bit. Has some blatant drawing in it. I wanted to test how my pen of choice was going to work with this medium. Now, I tried it on this paper, which is not the same paper as what's in my bullet journal. I'm going to have to go back and practice, and I'll do a practice swatch in the back of my bullet journal just to make sure that it behaves the same as this page does, because this is one of those mixed media type pages. I think it's put out by Canon. I think it's Canon. I'll link it below. I found it on Amazon. But the pen of choice that I was going to use for October is my Sharpie Ultrafine pen, and I wanted to make sure that putting either watercolor over it would not make it smudge. So I just took my pen, I did a little swatch at the bottom of the page, And then I went ahead and let it dry for a second or two, because the reason I like that pen is because it dries so quickly. And then I just took some watercolor and put over it to make sure it didn't smear. It did not, which makes me very, very happy. But again, I'm going to have to actually try it in the bullet journal. I also need to see what the warping effect is on the paper, because if it makes the paper buckle real bad, buckle, warp, whatever you want to call it, I may end up having to scan a copy of my drawing, because I have my items already drawn out, and then copy them onto like this kind of media page or some alternative bullet journal paper that I already have, and see about doing it there, or try to find a way to do it directly in the bullet journal without making it warp, which is all about the dry time. You have to let your layers dry. So we'll see. We shall see. So my daisies, I think, are essentially done. The only thing that I think I added was I added just a smidge of brown, just to kind of give the center parts of the daisy a bit more dimension. And then I did add just, I think, a smidge of white, just to kind of lighten up the spots on the daisy petals once everything was completely dry. In the meantime, I'm just kind of working on some leaves. Tried to go for like the actual daisy leaf work, not just the basic I'm a leaf work that I've done before. I think the dragon is pretty much done. I made the face look like a dragon, but the rest of him still looks like a donkey. A very, very terrible donkey. Oh my god, that dragon looked out. It's absolutely so terrible. It's because I got that horn going the wrong direction. But yeah. So, oh my goodness, this video is taking forever. I should have edited more out. But that's basically how it's gonna go. As it is, I think I'll go ahead and just kind of stop talking now and let y'all enjoy the rest of the painting. I should have got more paint on that brush. Oh well. In the meantime, by all means, if you enjoyed this video and enjoyed watching me absolutely butcher watercoloring, because I haven't done it in over 10 years, please give it a like. This is real-time drawing, people. This is not me having practiced and practiced. No, this is me not touching something for forever and a day and attempting to do it again. If you have any comments, if you want to see me try, do some work with acrylic or more watercolor work, or if you have any tips and tricks on how to use this medium, by all means, leave me a comment. And if you enjoyed listening to me ramble for, 17 minutes now, by all means, give this a thumbs up. I'm trying to put out some more additional content and not just the bullet journal content. But so hopefully you're at least getting a good chuckle out of this. Alright guys, I'll talk to you later. Bye. Enjoy the video. Alright guys, I want to thank you so much for watching my video today. I would love a like, a subscribe. By all means, leave me a comment. And also, you can find me on these other platforms, Instagram, Facebook, and then my website at theplateauperfectionist.com.